Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum, so it's pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Recognize we have a quorum. Regular agenda.
Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
I don't have any.
If not, I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda. Minutes, invoices, and the treasurer's report.
You got to pass these around. That's got to, we got a chance to look at those. That's part of the consent.
There are a couple things on invoices. There's one for Northeastern uniforms. So that's a large sum.
You guys look at these invoices.
That was for uniforms for compliance with the contract. And the other large one that's on there is Right Tech, which is our maintenance, our truck repairs. That amount is so large, it's because he was having problems with a second vendor getting parts in and getting invoiced for those parts for like the pump and some of those things. And so it's kind of it's an accumulation of several invoices, so that's why that is so large.
So big. Trade your
Yes.
bills.
Yeah, bet. So,
What was the Northeastern uniform?
that was for uniforms for compliance with the contract.
Okay.
Remember, I think it was last month before, that they were shuffling the guys down to pick up the uniforms
Yes.
and
Yeah.
see, it's from the closed session.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Public comment. Any public comment for the board? Hearing none, we'll move along to the chief's report.
First, the first item in my report is I'd like to recommend to the board that we support the renewal of the Washington County Emergency Communications millage, which is a continuation of the current .2 mills for 10 more years. I provided a handout in here that kind of explains it. It's Tuesday, March 8th, that's when the election. Some of the, just some of the items that are going to be part of the millage will be renewal and replacement of outdated radio and communications equipment. It will also put radios in schools, so the schools will have direct contact with an emergency dispatch system in the event of an emergency. It'll upgrade the current 911 system in the county to what's called Next Generation 911, which will allow for texting, video capabilities as well. It's also going to replace the pagers for emergency responders. Currently, the way the paging system works in the county, we are still using an old high band system to activate our radios, and then it goes through the 800 system for communications. I put a picture in here also of what is being proposed as far as the replacement pagers that they're going to look at. One of the problems with our current pagers is the ability to receive communications. A lot of times we suffer from the same distance things that we used to in the past with high band radios, and so you can't always pick everything up. With the new pagers that they're looking at, they're testing right now, we should have the same capabilities that we do with portables as far as receiving information. So that's one of the another change that they're looking at for emergency responders. But I think it's been well thought out, and they've done a lot of work on it, and communications today are so much better than they used to be. But it's like everything else. We're 10 years in, and some of the technology is old, and so it needs to be upgraded. So, but anyways, so the millage. The second thing is the Chelsea milling emergency plan is completed. I have that here with me. Anybody wants to take a look at it? What I did is it broke it down into 6 basic priority incidents, which range in from a normal EMS incident, weather-related incidents, dust explosions, fires, and hazardous materials. And then took each of those and developed an operational plan and a resource list for that. We're also reaching out to the railroads to develop a pre-plan for the trains operating on the lines running through Chelsea. One of the plans that I looked at is out of Montgomery County. They've done a very extensive pre-plan on railways, and they have a lot more railways going through there than we do, but they came up with a really good pre-plan.
Who was that?
Montgomery County, Maryland. So that's one of them I looked at. So really good plan. We did our captain and lieutenant's promotionals, the oral boards, and just to refresh everybody, the way our promotional system goes, it's in the contract, and there's a written portion of it that's done by a third-party service. Our HR company is the one that oversaw the written portion of it, and there's 25% that goes towards written. Then there's an oral board interview with outside officers, which is 50%, and then the fire chief's oral board interview, which is another 25%. So we conducted the oral board portion and the chief's portion. The oral boards for the outside agencies were Chief Greg Ambergy from Putnam Township Fire Department and Chief Dennis Keyser from Clinton Fire Department. We interviewed a total of 4, Colt White, Scott Bazar for captain, and Bill Rigner and Eric Stanley for lieutenant. And we'll go, when we get into new session, or new business, I go on further about that. I also did some research on a document on administrative policies. I have that here also. I sent it to Kurt. It's financial controls and policies and procedures for small nonprofit organizations. It looks like it hits a lot of the things that you were looking for. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at it or not, Kurt, but I researched that, came up with, that it would have to be modified some to fit our operation, but I think it hits all the things that Kurt was looking for. I went through and completed the National Fire Protection Association's Plans Examiner Certification Program, which Focuses on reviewing site plans, building plans, safety plans, sprinkler plans, those kinds of things. Because one of the things that I do is in a new construction or alterations or things come in, that's one of the things I have to do is do a plan review from the fire side of things. Also attended a training course for fire inspectors in Lansing as well. We also, once again this year, we are applying with the county for a federal grant for air packs and SCBA. County chiefs have been working on putting that together. That has been submitted. And last year's grant, we got to, it was approved, but the funding never made it down to our grant. So our grant was approved, but they didn't have enough funding to get down to authorizing it. So we're hoping to do better this year. Training, we finally have the ability of using a couple houses for doing some hands-on training. We've got one that's owned by Chelsea Schools, it's on McKinley, and another one just came up on Waterloo in Linden Township. And the plan is to conduct rapid intervention training, safety and survival, Mayday training. To give you a little overview of what the rapid intervention program is, I took an article, which is kind of a basic overview of what rapid intervention teams are. Just kind of give you a little heads up on, what kinds of things that we cover and what a rapid intervention team is. Mayday training, will educate our people on how to communicate and alert personnel of a missing firefighter. One comes down or if they're missing. We'll also be working on hose line evolutions, water supply, search and rescue, and fire behavior, so those kinds of things. This past month, we had we were part of a couple of fairly large fires. One was in Grass Lake. It was I call it a school. I'm not sure if they call it a meeting room or what. To me, it was a school building attached to a fairly large, older church. And the fire started in the basement of the school building and was extending across and into the church. And it was our firefighters that went in and held the fire, and in my opinion, they were responsible for the church still standing today. We received a thank you from the church and their appreciation for us and saving their church, the sanctuary part of the church. So that was our people that got in there and did that. We are also part of a condominium fire that we assisted Dexter Fire Department on. It was an 8-unit condominium. When they arrived, they had fire showing through the roof. They went to a defensive, which means we stood around and squirted water from the outside, used our aerial, used Ann Arbor's aerial. And when the fire was knocked down, then we assisted their crews with going in and completing the extinguishment of that fire. The interesting thing about that fire is that it was, that building was a 100% sprinkled building. So the fire started what appears to be in concealed areas that were not directly exposed to the sprinkler system. So was a major fire in a building that was a sprinkled building. So that's all I have.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you very much. Unfinished business, cost recovery and ordinance discussion. I have a copy of Lyndon's ordinance. Which I will give to you for billing purposes. That way they can cite the correct ordinance if they're billing in Linden Township.
Okay.
Has yours taken effect yet?
It's gotta be published, no, it's going in the
So
paper,
it'll
so
be
it's.
30 days.
Yeah, 30 days after solicitation.
Okay.
How about
We
yours,
have a
Karen?
cost recovery.
Ours
ordinance.
is the same, we put just a new title to it, but, that is going to be published, so that'll be 30 days out too. We currently have, a standalone ordinance that is in effect, but this one, after the 30 days, will then rescind the other and replace it.
We have the same, Jim, we have one in effect right now.
Okay.
It's quite similar, but we changed it to match the one that everybody else
Alright.
has. So we do have one you can
Okay,
fall back on.
all right.
And then Sylvan has an existing ordinance, and what I did is I took sort of all the elements that Mike said we should have in there, and then went through it and checked our ordinance against what Mike was recommending, and, you know, they pretty much lined up,
All right,
fairly close.
okay.
Ours was real close.
Wow, getting that done. Good job. Capital millage request. I haven't had much time to work on this. However, what I did do was basically give a rundown of some projections that we came up with.
Thank you.
It's quite similar to, if anybody else wants a copy of this, I've got some more. Who was it gave me this?
Vince Spade drafted
Vince,
that up.
the one that Vince came up with, basically the same idea, but we just differed on our figures. Projected replacement costs. And basically how much money it would take per year to maintain the fleet of equipment and protective equipment that we have now in service. And as you see, it comes up to about $168,000 a year to stay where we're at. 0.2 mils would generate approximately 156,000 according to my figures. So we would still be a little bit short, but not totally working in the hole. That's basically what the chief and I came up with on some of these figures. Obviously, it's real tough to guess what it's gonna cost for an engine or a truck 10 years, 20 years down the road, but I went on the cheap side. I'm not a big fan of luxury trucks, but this is what we came up with. So this is this is what we're up against so far as revenue versus expense. Questions? New business, promotions.
If I could get Scott Bazar and Bill Rigner to just kind of stand up if you would, please. I'd like to recommend Scott Bazar was the #1 candidate in the promotional testing for captain. I'd like to recommend him for the position of captain. He's been working in that capacity now for almost 2 years. And then William Rigner was #1 candidate for the lieutenant's position. He has also been the acting lieutenant for an extended period of time, so would like to recommend to the board that these two individuals be promoted to permanent positions.
Any questions? We have a motion to approve these promotions.
Do we need that? I thought the chief was fully capable of
I thought he said,
making the promotions. He advises support, but I don't know that we're going to take board action. Doesn't matter if we can, I'll make a motion.
motion by Meyer, second.
I'll second.
Second to approve the promotions as recommended by the chief. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, congratulations, gentlemen.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
work on that, chief.
Reports. I don't have anything significant to report. It was a busy month with some grievances and stuff, but other than that, I have nothing to report. Vice Chair,
I have nothing.
nothing?
I have nothing to vote.
Nothing.
Kurt? Don't know about the city's trustee. I haven't heard or had any communications
I haven't either.
from the city. I will reach out to them.
Supposed to
I
be-
don't know if he can't make
Yeah.
daytime meetings or,
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, so. The information I received was kind of the same way you did, just hearsay.
next meeting is March. Well,
March 15th.
I can't see.
March 15th.
March
here at
15th.
9 a.m.
At 9 a.m. Okay, we have a personnel matter that we need to enter into closed session to discuss.
I would make a motion to enter into closed session at 9:23 a.m.
I'll second that.